This is a demonstration presentation of how you would create an automaton, which is a type of kinetic sculpture. So with kinetic sculptures, the main element of art that you're dealing with is motion. The thing moves, it needs to move. That's what gives it its essence. That is the main point of that sort of artwork. So there are a lot of ways to make kinetic artwork. I mean, simple ways of driving them would be the wind, human touch, a motor, even making use of things like magnets. In this particular case, in this object that I've made here, this automaton, it's human powered, it's crank powered, as you'll see. So let's just get going with this so you have an idea of how you would put one of these together from start to end. So the main items that I've got to work with for this project are foam core, wooden skewers, and hot glue. That's pretty much it. There's also a little bit of use of popsicle sticks and also paper and ink just to dress it up some. But at its core, it's a foam core sheet. Didn't even use the whole sheet. This isn't very large. And then some wooden skewers, which you can pick up in many different lengths from pretty much any store where you can get food-related items. You go to that barbecue section, you'll find packs of 18-inch, 12-inch, even 6-inch skewers. Very lightweight, flexible, good for this sort of thing. So the idea with an automaton, at least this kind of automaton, is that you'll have what we call the shaft, which is this part here. So that's going to be the skewer. And that shaft is going to pierce these items down here, these sets of two. Each of these are called cams. So the cam is going to be what actually interacts with these three items here called followers. So that will make a little bit more sense in a moment. These are just the walls, the siding of the project. So once you've decided how you're going to power your automaton, what it's going to look like, the general mechanisms that are in it, you start cutting things out and preparing them so you can just assemble. So here you can see that main central component, the shaft with the cams attached to it, all put together. I just pierced that right through, and you'll see in the following slides that I've added a little bit of hot glue to each of those edges just to keep them from sliding around. But not very difficult to do. And also important here is the type of offset motion that I'm getting here relies on these not going directly through the center. So this might be the direct center of each of these cam wheels. I'm going off to the sides, and you can see they'll go off in one direction and then off into the other direction. And we'll alternate the way that these followers, pictured above, sit on top of that and create friction and move. So here again, I'm looking at that same shaft with the cams on top of it, pierced through it. And then what I'm looking for is that this length lines up with the general shape of the box, making sure it sticks out a little bit more than I need on either side. At this point, I've taken the two sides of foam core that are cut to fit, and I've hot glued them along that seam. They're holding on pretty well. And then I've pierced the shaft through each of the sides of those walls. So this runs in more or less a straight line. And you can see a little bit of warping in this skewer here. It's best to find one that's perfectly straight. Now there's the followers. Those are going to be coming down from above and resting on each of these cam sets. So you'll see that there. The other part that you want to have ready here is some end caps here and here. So this will be attached on the side here on the other part of this wall just to keep this from sliding in, and then similarly with this side. So here it is roughly assembled. I have those end caps out here and on the other side. You see it peeking out. That's going to prevent it from slipping around very much, and it's going to keep our cams generally in this area, and this area. And then our follower rests down on top. So you'll notice what I've also done in this section here. I've made new attachments to the top of these follower discs. Just taken about a 6 to 8 inch piece of skewer, hot glued it right to the top, and then I've pierced that up through the ceiling of this box. Basically what's happening here is the weight of each of these followers resting on these wheels creates friction. So if you imagine this center shaft turning, which it will, these cams are going to raise and lower. It's going to make this follower move up and down, but it's also going to make it turn counterclockwise and clockwise, giving it an erratic motion. Here you see the view of it from the side. This is going to be the area where I'll grab onto this shaft so that I can turn it. Otherwise it's just a stick poking out the end. So you want to put on something on the outside. So this is a wheel to hold it. You'll see in a future slide I'm going to attach another piece of wood to the edge here to make it a crank. But you want something to grab onto to be able to move that wheel. So let's take a look at this in motion. So I'm just turning it down here with this wheel, and you'll see those cams are moving up and down. And the reason why I have tape up at the top here on these is so you can see which way they're facing. You see they move clockwise, counterclockwise, and then also up and down. Now, once you have the structure and the mechanism moving as you need it to move, then you can start dressing this thing up and making it aesthetically pleasing, making it look more than just that machine, making those movements there. So you'll see in a moment what I'm going to do with this, but it's going to involve helicopters, so I've taken some of the foam core and cut out these roughly helicopter-looking shapes, and then I've put this cross-section of popsicle sticks on the top of each of them. It's supposed to look something like the propellers of a helicopter. It's close enough. This is what it's going to look like in the end here. I've made these illustrations with ink and paper, and I've applied them to the front of these boxes. Each of these towers here is made up of that foam core, and then it's faced with paper. We'll also put a wall in the back out of foam core and face that with paper too. And then paper on the sides of the helicopters, paper on the top, and then this pink Yeti-looking King Kong creature on the top of this tower here, also faced with paper. Alright, so let's see what this actually looks like here. You can see that as I turn this crank down below, it's making the helicopters move up and down, back and forth, as if they're flying in some bad way, that they're about to crash, obviously in flames. And then it makes our creature up here at the top jump up and down and then swipe side to side. So in the back it's a little less glamorous, but I keep it open so that you can see what's going on. Again, the crank goes round, moving the cams up and down. The followers then turn clockwise, counterclockwise, up and down. And then, of course, the motion of these three focal points up at the top. One more time. So there it is in the end. Again, it's just a still shot of what you already saw. Paper, foam core, that's basically what's disguising this entire thing. It distracts you, because of this tower, you don't see that long rod moving up, that follower up to the top. You just see this creature jumping up and down, swatting back and forth. And by keeping these follower shafts black. I keep that pretty much disguised. You don't see it too much in the backdrop of this darkened city. You just focus on the helicopters themselves and how they move about. So that is a very basic breakdown of what I've done with this project. Use this as a way to follow along with the supplementary material that I'll be providing to try to make your own version of an automaton. And again, making sure that you get this thing to work properly is first and foremost. Obviously, think about the aesthetic design while you're doing this, but don't lock yourself into a design if you don't know that it works. Make sure that it works first, and then go ahead and make that more aesthetically pleasing.